Where do you think Ivory Coast fits into all of this?
This could be, for the first time ever, we talked about how this is their 4th World Cup. They've actually never made it out of a group, which is shocking to think of all the talented players that have been in that golden generation. Nico, I think we're going to see them get out of the group, and there's a strong chance they could even win this group. A lot has to be corrected in the final third, and it's the same questions that Ivory Coast fans had going into AFCON, going into qualifiers, is without some of the firepower we saw Sébastien Haller from the previous AFCON win, who's going to score your goals? They have a young, talented group, a lot of young wingers, a lot of quality, but lacking that consistent goal scoring. Goal scoring will be the difference between them getting potentially top of the group or maybe just getting 3rd place. So that's what I'm looking at.
In 2006, they were unfortunate to be in the same group with Argentina. In 2010, they were unfortunate to be in the same group with Brazil. And then in 2014, they actually had a more manageable group. I think out of all their 4 World Cups, 2014 was most manageable. Greece, Japan, Colombia. The order of the games. I feel like if you're going to play Curaçao, you got to play them out of the gates. You might arrive, whoever it is, right in that last game, hurt. This time, per scheduling, it happens to be Curaçao. This is probably going to be an away game. Ecuador in this region of the country is very strong. Do you think this team has the experience to be able to walk into this high-pressure game and get it done against one of the, I would say, top 3 teams in South America at the moment?
The experience in this team, and it's an excellent question, the experience in this team is less in the front line and more so in the midfield. You have Franck Kessie, who's been there and done that, both at the club level and at the international level, who's their captain. You think of Ibrahim Sangare, and also Evan Ndika is still part of this team. So they have experience, but it's about the execution in the final third. I love you pointed out on the final match day, goal difference will be the difference maker, I think, ultimately in this group. And this is where you got to find your goal-scoring boots against Curaçao.
Yeah, you definitely do. First game sets the tone. Then you go into Germany. For both Ecuador and Ivory Coast, like, this just becomes such a watch match because Germany's going to beat Curaçao, with all due respect, right? So that already puts whoever loses this match in a complicated situation. Talk to me about Ivory Coast, what you're feeling, and what's being said about this national team and the things that they can achieve.
Well, I mean, I think, like I said, I think you guys are absolutely spot on. This is a team that can be easily one of the best of the continent just because of the depth of the talent that they have. And I think the tactical balance that they have, maybe even more so than their golden generation, than their iconic golden generation. But they're also a team that can be extremely inconsistent, not put away their chances in the final third, and have lapses in concentration that can be absolutely deadly. And I think that's, in fact, what happened to them in the last AFCON, where I think they'll be disappointed with their overall performance. They have some top quality players and incredible young talent, but also some veterans who are just top class. For me, Kessie is still a top class player, and some players who really stood out in the last AFCON. So they have everything to do well in this upcoming World Cup. The question is, will they? Which Ivory Coast will be the one that shows up?
Mbizo, talk to me about Yan Diomande and Amad Diallo. You did it on Numbers Online, right? About Yan Diomande and what could be for him. You guys are big fans of him, no, Nico?
Yeah.
Okay-ish? Okay.
Yeah.
Look, I'm a big fan of him. I'll put it out there, Mbizo, and I know you're a big fan of him as well. So what can we expect? Describe for people who've never seen Yan Diomande play football for Leipzig or play for the national team. What can we expect from him and Amad at this World Cup?
I think they can expect an atypical attacking aggression, that we don't see a lot these days, but that we love to see. I mean, the true essence of I think, attacking football, and in particular, the true essence of an Ivorian winger. I mean, he's athletic, extremely pacey, explosive, direct, very clever. I mean, maybe lacks some consistency in his decision-making as well in that final third that probably aggregates in their struggles from time to time in front of goal. slow, but he's an absolutely spectacular player, the kind of player that when the ball gets to his feet, you stand up expecting magic. And I think he proved that in the last AFCON, despite Ivory Coast's underachievement. I'm a huge fan, and I think he's growing. His stock is growing across European football. His stock jumped in African football after his performances in the AFCON, and we're hoping that he can really come to fruition in the World Cup, because if Ivory Coast is going to go far, is going to make it to the second round, they're going to need him.
Yeah, for sure that his stock has jumped. I was a little bit hesitant in the answer because Leipzig hasn't been playing in European football. They've only been playing in the Bundesliga. And all of a sudden, we have this kid that went from relatively unknown to Leipzig asking for a 9-figure sum for him, north of 120 million euros. It's not that I don't believe it. I see the potential in him. All of those attributes that you say in Mbizo are true. Then there's a component, and I hope it comes to fruition. Yeah. But there's also a component of overhyping players, of perhaps putting a lot of pressure on a very, very young kid, really. How do you think that he'll deal with that?
Well, I think that, African football fans, in particular, I'm speaking about Ivorian football fans and proponents now, I think are able to separate RB Leipzig's valuation, European hype, with their own sort of expectation and fandom of the player. I don't think it's something of a make or break tournament for the boy at any stretch of the imagination. I think that, yes, perhaps no player in Europe these days goes for their true value. I mean, all the prices are inflated. I mean, some ridiculous prices happening in the market. But I think the African football fan believes in the boy's ability, believes in his capacity to make an impact for this team, but won't necessarily discard his potential or discard his ability, turn their backs on him if he doesn't perform at that elite level. I think there's an understanding that despite his hype, that he is still a developing player, that he is still a player who hasn't really been truly tested over a longevity of time in the national team. And I think there will be some patience with him. And I think it's that very sort of welcoming and comfortable climate that will allow him to blossom for the national team, with the support of both the fans and the team.
I don't think we can throw these expectations onto such a young player, especially when Ivory Coast is much more than just Diallo and Diomande. They have Nicolas Pepe, this kid from Strasbourg, Martial Godot, is very good as well. So it feels like every time we spotlight or tend to talk about an Ivory Coast, we look at the young up-and-coming player because it's so exciting. Even, I forget this, I'll get to it in a second. The kid from Monaco.
Is it Eli?
Eli as well. Like, there is a plethora of creative attacking talent. And it feels like putting a lot of this pressure on Diomande is maybe a little bit unfair for how young he is.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and maybe I should pump my brakes. Nah, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to hype this kid up, man. No, Mbizo, in all honesty, Emerse Fae has an opportunity to do something that previous Ivory Coast managers have not. In Africa right now, there's a phenomenon that's happening with dual nationals. We see it with DR Congo, which is why DR Congo was able to qualify, and we're potentially going to see it with Cote d'Ivoire. I'm hearing Eli, the paperwork's pretty much done. You think Martial Godot coming in, dual national as well. And one player that I think would be just incredible to just cement and improve that goal-scoring question mark is Ange Joan Boni, who plays for Inter. He's linked with Cote d'Ivoire. So how might that change the outlook for Les Elephants in the final third and for this World Cup if they get more dual nationals in the team and in the camp?
Again, Mikey, the level of depth in this team is it's absolutely terrifying. And of course, they still have, I think, a lot to prove in terms of that talent. But the depth, both coming from natural-born citizens and from the ones who are naturalizing from France and other European nations, I think it's absolutely incredible. And I would actually go on to say that this is perhaps a new golden generation. Again, I mentioned that it's not quite the same as the iconic era of your Didier Drogba's and Yaya Tourés and so on and so forth. But it's a team that is beginning to really show that they can build upon that golden generation, who were incredible at club level, but perhaps struggled a bit more in terms of their World Cup performances. I think Nico spoke about their bad luck being in a group with Portugal and Brazil, or Holland and Argentina. It's been extremely tough. But I think this time around, the depth, the balance, having an African coach who's gone through the levels, who knows Ivory Coast in and out at the youth levels, at the senior level, I think this will give them a platform really to do something special. And I think the minimum expectation should be second round. If they can go more than that, we'll all be happy.
Crazy that Emerse Fae took over Ivory Coast halfway through an AFCON when they finished third in their group, and then ended up winning the thing. The player that I was thinking about was Simona Dingra, who's out Monaco, left Sunderland in the winter transfer window. There's another name that can give you a lot of solutions up top. All right, Mbizo, speak when you think Ivory Coast will be eliminated. All right? Group stage.
Okay.
Round of 32. Round of 16.
I think round of 16 is when it goes. I'm sorry, gents. I have to say it. I have to measure my hopes versus the reality. The reality is returning after 12 years is no small feat. Despite the talent, they're inexperienced in the tournament. It's a big one. Lots of top teams.
Yeah.
It hurts me, but I have to say round of 16. I hope I'm wrong.
You know what this expanded World Cup will do for a lot of countries that are inexperienced is that it'll give you an opportunity to win a knockout stage game. Winning round of 32 into the round of 16, it will lift spirits. And you never know who you meet in the round of 16 after that, that's when the cookie really starts to crumble. Mbizo Mzamane, merci beaucoup, mon frère. Thanks for watching this video from Morning Footy. For all news and insights regarding leagues around the world like EFL, Serie A, and all UEFA competitions, both men's and women's, don't forget to sign up for Paramount+.